Check Podcasts. Hi, I'm Bruce Williams. I'm the CEO of the Greater Victoria Chamber of Commerce. This is Chamber Chats, and we are coming to you today, as always, from the broadcasting studios here at Czech Television. I'd like to acknowledge, first of all, that I live and work in the unceded ancestral territory of the Lekwungen-speaking nations, the Songhees and the Esquimalt. It's a privilege and an honor to live and work alongside them every single day. Chamber Chats is made possible by the support of Island Savings, a division of First West Credit Union. There are a number of us who down the road will look back and say, I'm one of the people that made a big pivot in my life and in my career in the middle of a pandemic, because I took over the chamber in March of 2020. Another guy who made a very profound change during the pandemic is my guest today. He is the still relatively new president of Camosun College, and he is Dr. Lane Trotter. Lane, hi, how are you?
Hi, Bruce. Please call me Lane, and I'm wonderful. And I will just say I'm wonderful because I'm a brand new grandfather.
Yes.
My granddaughter was born Sunday night, and little Elsie Adele Porter is absolutely beautiful.
Was there any doubt?
With who her grandfather is, meaning me, possibly, but with who her mother, her father, and my wife and her other grandparents, not a doubt at all.
Well, congratulations on that. So that's going to put a little bit of a spring in your step, I'm sure. But in general, the question you get probably, I don't know how many times a day, how's it going in the new gig?
Well, first, I just want to take a moment to indicate that Camosun is on the territories of Algonquin people and the Wasanich peoples with our two campuses at Lansdowne and Interurban. And we thank them for providing us a space where our students can learn and be welcomed. In terms of how it's going in the first 5 months, I have to say I love Camosun. I love being back in Victoria. We have a wonderful institution. My predecessor, Sherry Bell, did such an amazing job leading the institution through the pandemic. And also in terms of ensuring that Camosun, which has deep, deep roots into the community, was prepared to support the community.
Yeah, as you're not a stranger to the area, you've kind of come and gone a few times over the years, so you know Greater Victoria pretty well. But when you take on a college, you're going to want to, sort of with any senior position, you want to take it in a certain direction that aligns with what your values are. So things that have popped up that have become very apparent during the pandemic or in spite of the pandemic are things like sustainability, climate change, the impact that's having on our economy and on our lives. Tell me about your take on sustainability and where the college is going with that.
Well, first, we have two issues with that. We have our own grassroots organization, the Camosun College Climate Committee. And we also have our board, which has made a commitment to dealing with the climate crisis. And in fact, that's one of my board objectives, is to help develop the plan for how the college will respond. I know that in your interview with Dr. Philip Steenkamp, Dr. Steenkamp spoke about what Royal Roads is doing. And I know that UVic is doing a lot as well. And so we're on that path of identifying the steps that we can take to support the community, support how we address both climate change and sustainability. And sustainability is also in terms of looking at our people, and that's our employees, looking at our students, looking at our community. And so those are some of the issues that we're looking at right now. How do we continue to work with our colleagues at UVic and Royal Roads and support our community? And I have to say, this institution is so well positioned to do that.
Yeah, we'll talk more in a couple of minutes about the relationship between the three post-secondaries. But one of the issues that the Chamber and so many others are pointing to right now, in addition to the opportunity within the climate action that's being taken, we need workforce. We need workers in this region. And Camosun has always been a principal source of workers for this region. So in general, the programs that you always do, the trades and the rest of it. I want to talk, though, about what you're doing to increase access for people who are marginalized. In other words, people who perhaps are Indigenous students who have not found similar opportunities, or people who identify as English as a second language, or they've just not had full access to the economy. Tell me about what you're doing with that.
So this is one of the benefits that a college has. Colleges provide that first opportunity for Indigenous students, for new Canadians, for marginalized communities to come in, get supports to make sure that they can start their educational journey, whether that's in whether that's moving into a trades or technology, a career program, if you will, or that's moving into university transfer and then pursuing a degree either at UVic, Royal Roads, or elsewhere. And so we provide those supports in place. So one of the things we do for our Indigenous students, which is really important, and we've had this for over 30 years, is Ashqualwin, which is our center for our Indigenous students. And that has helped us build links with our landholder groups. So with the Algonquin people, Songhees, Esquimalt, with Wasanich, and work to make sure that we're supporting students Indigenous students who come from those communities, but also urban Indigenous students and Métis students who are here. With the types of supports with elders. If you're coming from a small community of 100 or 200 and you're coming down to Victoria, it will seem like a completely different world just because of the differences in size and location and everything else. And so having elders helps students navigate that change. Having supports through Ashqualwin helps students navigate that change, having other students to talk to be successful. And so that's something that's very important. And whether it's younger students or older students, I won't say names, but there is an older student who came back after working for many years, and he recently won an award. And this individual is a leader at the college, one of our students, and will be pursuing further studies once he completes with Camosun. And we're so proud of him, as we are of all of our students. Now, if you're a new Canadian and you're coming here and English is a second language, that's a challenge because English is the lingua franca, one of the lingua francas in the country. And so we have supports for our students who are coming to us with those challenges. And in some cases, that's also international students. So sometimes new Canadians have the very exact same challenges as international students coming here. And so how can we help those students be successful? And then students from marginalized communities who we support with various programs and services. We support with financial aid, we support mental health, counseling, advising. One of the things that I'm proud of as a college is, I remember when I was 17 at UBC, and I was in an economics class, and this is something that still resonates to this day. And I remember the professor in that class of 300 or 400 saying, look to your left, look to your right, those people won't be here by the time you graduate. And I was one of those individuals who wasn't there. 17, again, from a small community in the big city, and got caught up in distractions. What I say to our students is look to your left, look to your right. Our success is when every single one of you walks across the stage. And so what are the supports we need to do that? And we continually look at the kind of supports that we can put in place for a variety of issues that students are facing, which are very different than when I was a student.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Me too. So as a new grandfather and as a relatively new college president, you've got to have a plan. We're going to talk about that next. Our guest today on Chamber Chats is Dr. Lane Trotter. He is 5 months into being the president at Camosun College. So 5-year strategic plan is what's on the table here right now. So tell me about how do you prioritize what you do, in consideration of the pandemic and the challenges plus the opportunities that present. So what's in a 5-year plan?
So right now we're developing our new strategic plan, and that's building on the previous strategic plan. And so the issues that we're looking at is how do we deal with teaching and learning? How do we support our students? How do we deal with indigenization and decolonization? How do we make sure that we have the right programming and technology in place? What are the needs of the community? And then what are the supports that we need to put in place to make sure that students are successful? So there are a variety of issues that simple response belies the complexity that lies beneath what I'll call an iceberg on that. And so we're working through that process right now, and we're hoping that by January 2023, we'll have our new strategic plan out. And we're going through a massive consultation process right now in designing that. Started with our board, now moving into the community, both the college community, and we've reached out to our retirees. We've reached out to the broader community with employers, and we're taking that feedback and we're helping to craft where should we be going next. I don't see a radical departure. I see a continuation of an evolution as opposed to a revolution, if you will. But again, continued support for trades and technology, healthcare, human services, business programs, support for arts and science and university transfer. Those areas are our bread and butter. And what most people may not realize is we've been around since 1971. We've been providing opportunities for over 80,000 graduates from this institution to go out and support the community in various roles. And again, we want to be linked to our community. We're integral to it. And we also look at our partners at the University of Victoria and Royal Roads and the work that we're doing with them on the West Shore Initiative to make sure that we support students on the south part of Vancouver Island.
You referred to the fact that when you were initially in your undergrad, you didn't quite succeed at the level you wanted to. When I first went to post-secondary, I felt that I arrived woefully underprepared. I think that partly that's because I just wasn't listening in high school, but you have something underway right now where you're working with some of the school districts that integrates secondary school students into post-secondary before they actually get there. That's a wonderful idea. Tell me about that.
Well, that's the South Island Partnership, so SIP. And working with the 5 school districts, what we're able to do is make sure that students, when they're still in high school, can start taking post-secondary credits. So they can start sampling what it is they might be interested in, so that when they graduate, they have a sense of what they want to do. And I've been involved with those kind of, call it dual credit partnerships for a long time. At one point, I worked in the Ministry of Advanced Education. And when I worked in the Ministry of Advanced Education, we were working on alignment between K-12 and post-secondary. So between grade 11, grade 12, and first year post-secondary, on opportunities for students to complete, as part of their graduation framework, the first year of a post-secondary credential and their dogwood, and then move on. SIP is so much broader with the number of courses that are available to the students and how it's delivered. And it's something that we've been working on with our school districts in collaboration. And it's something that I think sets a model for the rest of the province as they look at what dual credit should or could be.
How do you measure success of that?
I think in 2 ways. The first one is the throughput of students, so the number of students taking courses. And the second one is the number of students then transferring on to post-secondary. And whether it's Camosun, which I would strongly encourage them to go to, but going to UVic or Royal Roads aren't bad options either, and or to other post-secondary institutions. What I would say to the student doing it, though, is have a sense of where your passion is, and then go and try and pursue it. And in some cases, that's the trades. I think I mentioned earlier, after my first unsuccessful year at UBC, I got a job, started an apprenticeship, and then unfortunately the economy went into a significant recession, and that was 82. And so that led me to believe I needed to go back to college. But right now, looking at the labor market for young people, government's projecting a need for 85,000 tradespersons. They're projecting over, I believe it's about 160 to 180,000 people who need some form of technology education. And over the next 10 years, we're talking an opening of a need for 1 million people. So that's 100,000 people a year, roughly, across the spectrum in the economy. And roughly 80% of those jobs are going to require some form of post-secondary, whether trades, or career programs like technology, business, health and human services, or our university transfer programs, and then again moving on to one of our partner institutions.
Yeah, when you talk about the areas of education that are available for people to learn the skills that we need to keep our economy moving forward, you talk about healthcare, you talk about trades, which is a circumstance that was there before the pandemic, frankly, but. You talk again about this integration of the secondary school students into post-secondary. When I was younger, when you were younger, when you finished high school, you were at kind of a crossroads, or there was a fork in the road. Am I going to keep going to school, or am I going to go to work? This is really a means of encouraging continuing education, to continue learning. At the same time, we have people who are in the workforce now that want to retrain themselves to integrate into something that will bring them more satisfaction and engage them into the much needed areas of the economy. So a term that we've been hearing a lot is micro-credentialing.
Yes.
Talk to me about micro-credentials at Camosun.
So with our micro-credentials, we're working with Royal Roads. We work with UVic. And what a micro-credential is it, instead of taking, for example, a full year of course or 2 years of courses or for a 4-year degree, what you do is within a very compressed timeline, you take a number of courses, and it could be just 1, 2, sometimes 3 that are specific to provide you with a skill set that'll get you into the workforce or upgrade your skills to keep you in the workforce. And so this is one of the latest trends in education, which is rather than having to completely reskill, get the skills needed for a specific task or area of work, and then you can keep going along with continuing reskilling. What we used to call that was lifelong learning. And so these are the things that we're working on as an institution. And then we can tie those micro-credentials onto your credential when you graduate, so that not only do you have your Camosun certificate, diploma, or degree, you would also have, as part of that, it would also list your other co-curricular activities, like a micro-credential, like volunteer opportunities that you might have. And we have something we call CamStar that we use to do that.
As we've all been spending so much time online, either purchasing things or having meetings like you and I are right now, events of cyber hacking and cybersecurity have been increasing, and Camosun is going to do something about that. And we're going to talk about that next. Dr. Lane Trotter is our guest on Chamber Chats today. He is the president of Camosun College. So there's some new programs coming for the intake in fall of 2022. One of them is cybersecurity and network support, because, boy, that's become such a vulnerable area lately, hasn't it?
Yes, and we see all organizations, public and private, are under attack. We get numerous attacks every single day. And so the new program that we're launching, our new diploma program, is designed to provide the education for people who can get hired by employers to kind of step in the way of people who are trying to hijack your system, demanding ransomware, or in some cases, just loading malware onto your system. So this program is timely, and it fits with one of the needs of the economy, one of the needs identified by governments to secure our infrastructure. And so again, we respond to where the demand is, and this is one of the ways as a college we're able to do that. We're also looking at how we can link to others so that when students graduate with the diploma, they might be able to continue their education towards a degree or even a master's degree with their education. And again, cybersecurity, I would just, when people get those jokey emails, I'm the first to delete them, because sometimes you might be tempted to click on a link, and that can open up a portal into your system, and somebody can take over the system. And there's various types of attack. There's phishing, spear phishing. Phishing is just a general attack. Spear phishing is where it's targeted at an individual. And let me give you an example of something that I'm aware of. And I'm not going to name the organization, but there was an organization, and all of a sudden they had a phishing attack. And so the phishing attack went in, and so the CIO of the organization was made aware of it, stopped the attack by basically deleting all those kind of emails, because people have a tendency to be very trusting and will open them. Well, the next attack that came in was a spear phishing attack aimed at some particular people. And what happened in that case was, again, it appeared to be somebody masquerading as either the president, maybe as a vice president, maybe as a director, and asking people to click on a link to do something. And so that was intercepted. And then the CIO sent out a note generally to the organization saying, please be aware of this, don't do it. Well, about a week later, there was another email that the CIO sent out, and I'm doing that in air quotes. The CIO sent out to a number of people in the organization. So this was a very sophisticated attack where people thought the actual CIO of the organization sent out the email to do something. And so there was a staged attack, basically working on a mass psychology to get people to open up information where they had an attack. Okay, don't do it. Says the CIO. There's another specific attack. Don't do it again. And then people pretend to be the CIO. So the culprits had figured out the psychology of trying to manipulate people. And so somebody had done it, and they got into the system. So these are the things why we need cybersecurity systems. And no matter how high you build the fence, these hackers can figure out a way over it. So part of this is just good, what you would call computer hygiene, which is when somebody, or on your phone, somebody sends you a link to, this is your bank account. Don't believe it. Just absolutely don't believe it when people are asking you to give away your personal information.
Well, it's creating the opportunity for education in the middle of a crisis.
Yeah.
We are almost out of time, got about a minute left here. But you're also offering up a new course in the fall in sports management. Tell me about that.
Well, we have PISE, a relationship with the Pacific Institutes for Sports Excellence, which is changing its name to the Pacific Institute for Sports Education. And so with the facilities that PISE has located at our interurban campus, with our program, we're developing programs that will support people wanting to get into sports management, wanting to get into a very thriving business area. And this also supports some of our other recreation and sports programs. So again, we're really excited by this opportunity. And it also ties in because we have a competitive varsity team. And when we take a look at the Chargers and the men's volleyball team won the national championships. And so we're very proud of them. And so again, this just ties in and reinforces what we're doing with sports education and management.
You know, ahead of this session, this interview, I had like 3.5 pages of notes, and I've just reached the bottom of the first page. So we're going to have to do this again in the very near future. But thank you so much for your time, and we will do this again in a couple of months. I hope you can be available for that.
Bruce, thank you so much for your time. And I'll just say it's good to be home.
And it's good to have you here. Dr. Lane Trotter is the president of Camosun College. I'm Bruce Williams. We'll see you again for another Chamber Chat.